Button.
Okay, we're going live.
All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to the first meeting of 2022 for the Warren Astronomical Society. I am your current president, Diane Hall, and we have a couple of talks for you tonight, as is the tradition for our Monday meetings. In the meantime, we're going to kick things off with, if you are a new member, please put a message in the chat if this is your first meeting or you've joined over the break, so that we can see you and give you a shout out. And as far as presidential business goes, so Omicron variant has derailed our plans to phase in a return to Cranbrook. I've been in communication both with our patrons at Cranbrook and with the staff who normally assist us in actually accessing the building, assuring us that, we're alive, we exist, we want to come back, this is not the good time, and we will be keeping in touch with them to see when we can return to our place in the auditorium. In the meantime, if you want to show support for our home, Cranbrook, they've got a really cool space exhibit, limited time exhibition down there in the basement. Recommend that y'all go check it out. I really enjoyed reading the vintage Apollo 11 era stuff, and my nieces, who are 2 and 5, really like the interactive modern things. So check that out. Hello, Carolyn. Thank you for joining us for your first meeting tonight. Welcome. So I will now pass things over to our newly minted first vice president, Mr. Bob Tremblay.
Oh, yikes. Wasn't expecting that so soon. Yikes. Okay, well, Dale Parton left me a fairly good schedule up through May. I have an opening for the March short presentation on March 7th. After May, I need presenters. So yeah, I would prefer to have members and people from the local area if I could get them. I have sent out some feelers already to some of my professional friends, so we'll see what we can get. So again, I would encourage the membership. If you have not given a lecture and you're interested in it, I mean, do it, please. I mean, I love giving lectures. The first one was scary. After that, it was cakewalk. So we said we have lots of openings at the beginning, middle of the year. Other than that, thanks, Dale, for filling up the first part of the year.
Thank you, Bob. And again, presentations can be a full-length presentation or it can be a short one. If you are interested in giving one and you are intimidated by the idea of addressing the Warren Astronomical Society, a 10 to 15-minute short presentation like we feature tonight is always a good way to get your foot in the door. And as long as it is astronomy based, we are happy to have it on any subject, including say astronomical art, astronomical artifacts, astronomical fiction, and even weather. So weather counts as astronomy, or at least planetary science. So if you've got a really cool presentation on clouds and Earth and what they mean for viewing conditions, we'll take it. Next in the lineup, we've got our returning second vice president, Riyadh. Riyadh is with us, but his connection is lousy. So I will be just giving you his report. Riyadh staffed Stargate for our open house in December, welcomed one new person, even though conditions were cloudy. So thank you, Riyadh, for going out on a not so great night and greeting the public. We will be continuing open houses at Stargate. Despite the uptick in COVID, these are outdoor, and at present, particularly since it's the winter, sparsely attended. We feel comfortable having people there. As the weather warms up and as we begin to anticipate events with more people, like say the statewide astronomy night on April 8th, we will have to work out logistics and more staffing at the events beyond Riyadh to make sure everybody obeys safety regulations. But for the time being, unless there's a blizzard or high winds, please assume we are going to be full speed ahead for outdoor activities at Stargate. So thank you, Riyadh, and the rest of his report is in the WASP. Now pass things over to our diligent secretary, Mark Kedzier.
Thank you, Madam President. The minutes of all of our December meetings are in the award-winning January edition of the WASP. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And as things fill up, we do remember, hit your mute button. There's a lot of y'all in the room right now. Hit that mute button if you are not presenting. Shout out to Mark for mailing out our lovely WASP calendars. Mark, how many calendars still remain to be sold?
We have a total of 8 left.
8 calendars left. So they went fast. We had a full 5 dozen ordered this year. So if you do not yet have your beautiful 2022 WASP calendar, 8 remaining. $15 a piece plus $5 shipping, right, Mark?
Yeah, it's $15 for the calendar plus $5 shipping and handling.
Beautiful art that I guarantee your coworkers will be looking at you and saying, hey, are those Hubble pictures? Because that's what always happens to me. And you can tell them, no, you know the people behind the camera and they are awesome. And the Warren Astronomical Society is a great club. Okie dokie. Now over to. Hi, Jerry. You have a question?
Yeah, I paid for a calendar last year and didn't get one. Can I get credit towards this year?
Okay, yeah, email us and we'll sort it out.
Okay.
We did not order enough last year. We made sure to
I
do
know.
better this time. So please email us
Okay.
and we'll sort it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. All right. And over to our brand new outreach chair, Kevin Mclaughlin.
Hello, all. The only thing we have going on is I've contacted the Macomb Discovery Center to set up. They want to possibly do some work with us, so I've sent up trying to contact them for a meeting, and that's it. So I'll be the one you'll be getting data for if there's any outreach requests. And that's it.
Thank you, Kevin. Yep, in between Swan and the Discovery Center, our normal calendar of events is slowly but surely rebooting. Okay, over to man of the hour, treasurer Adrian Bradley with an important time-sensitive update for y'all.
Hello, this is Adrian, and thank you, Diane, for the lead-in, because that's what I'll start with. Membership renewals are now due. When we left 2021, we had 191 current members, and now, thanks to the new year starting off, we are now at 61 current members. So we ask all of you who, if you have sent in your checks already to the post office box, we thank you, and we will be processing those and updating your membership status. But as always, we prefer PayPal, as it is quick and simple. Your credit card, if you have one, you can use your credit card to send us an updated payment, and then we can immediately mark you as updated and paid. And don't forget, if you want to become a member of the Astronomical League, or you want to continue your membership for the Astronomical League, you can send in your dues for those. Astronomical League renewal will be at the end of June in this year, 2022. So those of you that are Astronomical League members, you will continue to be a member, but you will need to renew in order to be a member for the remainder of 2022. And we would like you to renew your membership, whether it be individual. If you're senior, the prices, they're on the website. Prices $22 for seniors. The rest individuals are $30. Family members $7, and Astronomical League is $7.50. We have a couple of you that paid through this year, and we've marked that down. I see your message, Dale. I will get to you. You did send it to me privately, so I will return a message and make sure your membership is updated, and we'll discuss. And you can do the same thing. You can send me a private message over chat, or email at treasurer at Warren Astro and warrenastro.org, and I will address the membership questions there and make sure everything is all set. So we will yep, I'm getting all the messages. Laura, you just sent your message in. So be sure to take care of your membership. Continue to hit me with these questions, and we'll take care of that. Also, you will see in the WAF starting next year an updated report from the Treasury with more information about our finances, which right now we sit at around $21,675 in our main account. Our GLAC account is sitting at $3,263.95, and our PayPal account, which we use for most of the fluid cash, sits in around $1,000 right now. It's at it's above 1,000. So we use the PayPal account a lot to take care of most of the day-to-day business of the WUS. So a question that I'm going to answer right now before I end my report here: do you need a PayPal account to pay by PayPal? The answer to that, my answer is no, you shouldn't need a PayPal account, but let me follow up on that, because I happen to have my own PayPal account, but I don't think you need one to actually send a payment. I will verify that and put that down. I'm going to write a note so that I can share that with you if you have that question. So other than that, any questions, just continue to send them to me. I've got a number of them from you already in chat, and you can email your questions to me again, treasurer, and I'll put that in the chat message, treasurer at warrenastro.org. So with that, I am going to end my report here so that the whole meeting isn't about my report. So thank you all for listening, and send me those messages.
Very good, Adrian. Rest of treasury type stuff is as usual in the WASP, and you can email Adrian if you have questions. Over to the editor of our award-winning newsletter, Dr. Dale Teamy. Dale Teamy.
Oh, I got a promotion.
Yeah, it's hard on me now that there's only one Dale. I'm used to the 2 Dale rule.
Yeah, I feel a little strange too. Don't worry about that. Okay, the WASP is online. We got that up by the first of the year, and calendar sales, as pointed out, have gone quite well. We're down to the last 7 or 8. So if you are interested in getting a calendar, I would suggest maybe you do something tonight to speed that along. And I'm also getting ready to do our annual mailing, where we send out an actual physical letter to the members, and you can check that to see where your membership stands as far as when it will expire or has expired, and take a look at that. It also has a bit of a calendar of upcoming events on it as well, so something to look forward to. And that'd be my report.
All right, thank you, Dale. So for those of you who are new, that concludes the report of our 7 board officers. If this were an in-person meeting, we also would have included pitches for name tags, which are not too terribly useful right now in WebEx. A reminder to join our mailing list, which is through MailChimp, which you can access through the Warren Astro website, www.warrenastro.org, or join our meetup. Both are ways of getting time-sensitive bulletins into your inbox. Now we have the special interest group. Solar Marty, are you still with us to give the solar report?
I am still here. I don't have an image to share, but that's okay because there's no sunspots on the sun right now. Compared to the last 2 weeks, though, when the sun was raging with sunspot. So that means the far side must have a bunch of sunspots on it right now. So yeah, kind of going through that cycle now of a lot of really great sunspots and then almost no sunspots, but that just all means that the sun is getting much more active. I do plan on having this summer some solar subgroup meetings out at Stargate. And a couple of side notes on the sun. Tomorrow, January 4th, we will be at perihelion, the closest for the entire year of our orbit of the sun. And also that means we're traveling the fastest speed right now. We've actually gained 2,000 miles an hour in orbital speed by being closer to the sun right now. Oh, and another note, Venus is going to go into inferior conjunction on January the 8th. That's why I always report that, careful, on January the 8th, we will have an 8,000-mile rocket barely miss the Earth by only 26 million miles. Don't forget to duck. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Solar Marty. Discussion group currently suspended for the pandemic. We hope to resume that at some point when it's safe. Fingers crossed. Double Star group, that would be Riyadh. Riyadh's having the connection issues, so I will let you know that Double Star group meets at the Stargate open houses. So that will be the 4th Saturday of every month, unless we cancel it for inclement weather at Stargate Observatory. So if you want to enjoy Double Star expertise, that's the place to go. History subgroup. Back over to you, Dale.
Okay. Well, after tossing Mark under the bus a couple of times and driving back and forth over him, he has returned the favor and mentioned that I will be resuming my scans of some of the Detroit Astronomical Society papers in January. So now I got a target to shoot for.
All right. Good
And I have to crawl back up out from underneath the bus again.
Excellent. Astrophotography group. I don't see Bob Berta. I don't see Bill Beers, our one of our award winners for last year. So over to Deputy Special Interest Group, Adrian.
All right. Well, for astrophotography, I'm going to be presenting at the Explore Scientific Star Party tomorrow, and I'll put a link up to their to the live live website. I'm going to be exploring whether or not black and white is something that you can do with astrophotography, and in particular, landscape astrophotography, or nightscapes as we call it. That Crab Nebula that you see in the back of Ken Burton, unless you're looking for specific details, like HA wavelength, that's about the only time you would see anything that looks like a typical black and white image. Or behind Bob Tremblay's head with the galaxy, you can see, if we do narrowband, you would only see certain things. You may not see this entire luminous area of the bulge. You might see the inner part of the bulge. But what about those of us that like doing nightscapes? And can the whole thing be in black and white? And does it take away from an image that that was originally meant to be in color? I'll do a quick screen share, and then we'll be done. Here is a sample image that I think answers that sort of question. Yes, it's the Milky Way, but when imaged with the clouds, I think it actually makes a good image. You don't see a lot of Milky Way images in black and white, so it's something that I am going to discuss at the Explore Scientific Star Party. And I will, again, I'll put the link. And there's my good friend David, whom I thought for a second wasn't going to come join us. He will also be there at the beginning of the Global Star Party. So So I guess that's as far as reports for astrophotography. Also, really quick, if you remember Comet Neowise graced us in 2020. Comet Leonard graced us in 2021 and returned the favor to the Southern Hemisphere, who couldn't get images of Comet Neowise because it was close to our dipper. It was too high for Southern Hemisphere viewers. Well, Leonard came to even the score. You can look online for many beautiful images of Comet Leonard as are currently being taken by our Southern Hemisphere friends. It's giving them the same sort of display that we had with Neowise here in the Northern Hemisphere. So look out for those online. I'm not sure we are able to see Comet Leonard anymore from our latitude north. It's too close. It gets too close to the sun at sunset now, and by the time it's up and shining brightly, it's doing so in the Southern Hemisphere. So that's it for the astrophotography report. I think our astrophotography group meets tomorrow. Bill Beers and many of the other really good astrophotographers in the Michigan area, our state of Michigan, are meeting and sharing images and techniques. So if interested, you can use that same treasurer, and I'll get your info to Bill Beers if you're interested in being a part of the astrophotography group. Thank you, and back to Madam President.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm hearing some background noise. Please mute, or we will have our digital sergeant of arms search and destroy, because can't have that. All right, very good. Thank you. As far as just wanted to let y'all, if you're not keeping an eye on the chat, Bob Tremblay followed up Adrian's comment on black and white photography with a mention of Ansel Adams, the great California-based black and white photographer. For those of you who don't know, our former president, Bob Berta, who is still active in the imaging community, knew Ansel Adams. So if you get to meet Bob Berta at an upcoming event, ask him. It's some cool stories there. All right. So that runs out our special interest groups. We can kick things over to observing. Raise your hand if you've got, David's got both hands up. Take it away, sir, with our first observing report.
Well, thank you very much, Diane. I want to wish everybody here a very happy new year, and may 2022 be a damn sight better than the last year was. I never knew Ansel Adams, by the way, but I listened to a report on PBS about him one night, and I was so moved by his modesty and his quiet nature. And yet he was able to take all that and take some of the finest pictures the world has ever seen. My own observing I got on Saturday night. I was out at our dark site with some friends and got a final view of Comet Leonard, very low in the southwest. And it was pretty good, a nice little tail. And the sunspots today, there are no sunspots and only two prominences. Anyway, a number of years ago, I was visiting Jonathan Tennyson at his office at University College London. Jonathan Tennyson is an astronomer that I know well, and he has done a number of good research articles on Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. And but when I was in his office, I noticed this two quatrains from the famous poem that were on his wall. The poem written by his great grandfather. And this is the poem. There rolls the deep, where grew the tree. O earth, what changes hast thou seen? There where the long street roars hath been the stillness of the central sea. The hills are shadows, and they flow from form to form, and nothing stands. They melt like mists, the solid last. like clouds. They shape themselves and go. Thank you, and back to you, Diane.
Beautiful. You reminded me that while Adrian has the generous notion that Comet Leonard is the gift to our southern compatriots for missing Comet Neowise, I'm still holding Comet McNaught 2007 against our friends in the south because we didn't get to see that multi-tailed beauty. So as far as I'm concerned, Neowise was just getting even with them, and the clock is restarting. So, any other observing reports?
Good, great points for those of us who may not have seen that. I also saw Comet Hale Bopp, and I don't know if that was visible in the southern hemisphere as well as what we got to see.
Oh yeah, we got the double whammy in the late 90s.
Yeah, so that very good point.
Dr. Dale Burton, your hand is up. You got an observing report for us.
I do.
Excellent.
From earlier this evening.
It was a beautiful night, yeah.
Still is. I guess I've appreciated the Pleiades for a long time. And, you know, with a decent sized telescope, as you all know, even in low magnification, you can't see it all at once. And I guess that's why I never paid the slightest bit of attention to the Hyades, because they're like 2 or 3 times as big as the Pleiades. And right now, if you look to the east, the Pleiades are up fairly high and the Hyades are just below it. But I was out there this evening with 7X binoculars, which have a 9.5-degree field of view. And it was just spectacular. I never really looked at it with something with a big enough field of view to see the whole thing before. So there's some nice sort of like double stars. They're not true double stars, but they look like double stars. And just a beautiful object to look at. So, you know, try it with your binoculars, guys. That's my report.
Excellent. And for those of you unfamiliar with the Hyades, it is the open cluster around the brilliant red star Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus the bull, much celebrated by the ancient Greek poets. Other observing reports. I don't blame anybody who dashes out during snack break and goes have a look, because the sky, at least in southeastern Michigan, is pristine right now.
It was pristine yesterday. It cleared, and I ran out to get an image, going to one of my favorite places to look for dark skies. And I decided I would go to a close by place known as Lake Hudson Dark Sky Preserve. So with a quick share of the screen again, I will share with you my observing report. This is my observing report.
Oh, that's pretty.
It's this is the entrance to the picnic area. Now, yes, there's glow from the nearby towns, and I tend to keep that in my images just because it makes it colorful. But using my modded camera, and I pick up a lot of that glow. When you shoot things like this and there's less glow, you know, this Milky Way goes closer to the horizon. Here's an attempt a couple years ago, and I didn't manage this glow very well. I've tried it again, and although the color of the sky might be a little off, I got more detail. This is me turning around and firing the other way at the picnic area. So basically, I shot 2 sides of the Milky Way. Whenever it's clear enough, I tend to want to take images of the Milky Way where I can. And because it's winter, I tend to shoot the same regions. So you've seen this region here. Earlier last year, after returning from Okie-Tex, I took a shot like this of that region. Now, this is a little further north in Michigan. It's not far from the Mackinac Bridge. And you notice there's a little less. Of course, the trees are blocking any, light. That's how we typically frame them, is we'll use trees or something as a foreground, and then the rest of the Milky Way shows up. Winter Milky Way shooting, a lot of folks prefer the big bright core of the summer, but winter Milky Way shooting is to me is just it's challenging, and you can create just as beautiful nightscapes with that. And but it was just worth it, seeing a lot of stars when looking up. If you don't have binoculars, and if you don't have a telescope, and if it's too cold for you, just being out in the night sky to me is a warming feeling. And it may have taken me all of about 30 minutes to get the few images that I got, and then I turned around and I drove home. Next stop would be to try and get to my places that are up in the thumb and try and do some imaging there again, because I haven't been there in a while. And that's it for my report.
Excellent. Other observing reports. Well, it is 8:01. I can then hand things over in good conscience to our newly minted first vice president.
Yikes.
Do his first introduction of our first speaker of the year.
Okay. Well,
Take it away, Bob Tremblay.
all right. Well, I'm Bob Tremblay. I was previously the outreach officer for years and years. I am now the first VP, and our first speaker tonight is, let me see if I get this right, Valerie Sterligov. He is a professional optician with a PhD in physics of semiconductors and dielectrics, and another PhD in the optics of laser physics. Due to the specialization, he's interested in astronomical optics and astronomical observations and the treatment of astronomical images. He's going to show you how to create a self-made artificial star used for image alignment. And take it away.
Oh,
Does he have shareability, Dale?
I can't.
Do we need to pass him shareability?
Yeah, I believe so.
I'm in a presenter.
Okay. All right, Valeria, you should be able to share your screen now if you.
So your audio popping on and off.
Yeah, I think he's. Don't know. Don't know if he's. Valeria, are you trying to share your screen?
No,
Are you looking for your presentation?
oh,
Okay, well, we see and hear you. Are you going to be sharing a PowerPoint or something?
somebody climb on the phone and talk.
Maybe we should ask if everything's okay. Are you?
Do you listen to me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Uh,
Problem
see you.
that unmute button not worked for me previously, but right now it works. So I try to share my screen.
Okay, we gave you the
Okay.
presenter.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. I am sorry, but some technical issue.
It's okay. We've been fighting some we've fought technical issues all meeting long, so just carry
Yeah.
on.
Says sharing content, but I'm not seeing anything yet.
It trying to share it to show screen. Well, in my screen it is mess.
And Doug Bach would have some issues like this from time to time. Go ahead and unshare. Try it again.
But right now I don't have any button on my screen, only completely white screen.
Go above, move your mouse to the top of the screen, and you should have a drop down that allows you to choose.
Okay, I try to reconnect, but I see the sound, but I don't see the image.
I also recommend
listen sound, but
closing out any applications you are not using other than WebEx and your PowerPoint.
yes. Yes, I did. Okay. Oh. Okay, now we try to draw something.
And we had the for those watching, we had a board meeting to start, so that may have
I see the whiteboard. Okay, it
couldn't
states that it's sharing my PowerPoint presentation. But I don't see. Okay, something happens. I should wait some reaction.
I see something
All
different
right,
now.
things are beginning to change.
Yep.
Do you
Start to
see something?
It's taking, maybe it's internet connection, but it is taking some time.
Blank screen. And do you have a second screen? It looks like you're sharing a screen without anything on it because I see your mouse.
Yes, I see the mouse on the black screen. Mouse pointer. Oh, probably I try to leave a meeting and join it again. Because right now it's nothing.
If you drag your presentation over to that blank screen, it'll show for everybody.
Yeah, I think what you've got is dual screens right now.
Okay. Oh, do you see something?
Yes.
Now we see it.
It works.
Yep.
Okay.
Good call, Dale.
Aside from some gray.
Finally. Thank you for your patience. So
No problem.
now it works. It's visible. Is it correct?
Aside from two gray artifacts, yes. There are two gray artifacts on the screen, but other than that, we can see it.
Yeah, I bet you
Okay, so
those are boxes. If we've moved those, if you move those boxes like up or off to the side, I think we'll be good. Or to the to your other screen.
I see only oh, now it disappear.
Oh.
Probably I'll try to reconnect because it's not worked like this.
And it's my fault. We saw the presentation, just the boxes.
Valerie,
yes.
Since you're having a bit of tech issues,
sorry,
why don't we convene the snack break now? We'll give you 10 minutes to sort it out. I'll
Okay.
chat with you privately. And we'll
Okay.
reconvene
Okay.
at
Very good.
8:20.
I'll try to reestablish connection.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thanks for
That
your
sounds
patience,
good.
everybody.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Grab
Oh,
a
it's okay.
snack, etc.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we'll work it out. Go ahead and rejoin, and a few of us
Yes.
will
Yes. I
work
will
with you.
try.
See y'all in
Okay.
10.
Okay. Okay. Do you listen me?
We hear you. Yes.
Okay. Now I try to share my screen.
So the guys that are left hanging out here, I was trying to buy a brand new Celestron 8SE scope that was for sale at a auction this past Thursday. And it went higher than I wanted to go, given that it was an auction and they listed it as new, but it's basically as is. So I haven't seen anything in the WASP lately about used equipment. So if anybody knows of a 8-inch or bigger scope, let me know.
Yeah, who's speaking?
This is Steve Stewart.
It is Steve Stewart. Okay. Very good. So yeah, we do get actually a couple of times a year, basically estate sale kind of things. We usually put those in the WASP as block ads, so I can check our records and see if there's anything that's happened recently.
Okay.
But yeah. The other place, of course, to look is Cloudy Nights.
Yeah, I've been looking there. Actually looked at Astromart. I see there's a few things for sale that are interesting. I might
Cool.
break down and get a brand new one. Get one of the bundles with the various eyepieces and filters, because I've got a few eyepieces as well and a couple of filters, but I guess I'll jump in. But I want to get something for photography. I've got the 130 SLT with a Celestron next image 10 megapixel camera, CCD.
That looks good.
There we go. So enjoying doing some planetary stuff, but I want to try to get some deeper sky images, and certainly won't be competing with Adrian's stuff, but forward to getting
Yeah,
into
that's
it.
hard. Very good. Want to do a shout out to Dale Teamy. I just opened a present from him. It is the source of all knowledge, as we call it here in the WAS, aka the Royal Astronomical Society handbook from Canada for 2022. So if my camera weren't terrible, I'd hold it up to the light so y'all could admire it. But get yourself a copy because they are good.
Very complete. Very, very complete.
All right, Dr.
don't-
Sterligov, we can see you now. We're still going to give everybody 5 more minutes to grab their drinks and take a bio break, since I promised that we'd get
Yeah.
rolling at 8:20. So looks like
Okay.
your technical stuff is sorted, and we will roll in 5 minutes.
Okay.
But yes, Steve, unfortunately, thanks to the pandemic, there's been a fair amount of secondhand stuff hitting the market over the last 2 years, some of it extremely good.
Yeah. There was a guy locally selling the Nexstar 8 GPS, but reached out to him. He wanted $1,000 for it. It's a 2003 model. So the research I've done indicated that, or implied that it wasn't upgradable. It was the original Nexstar controller and firmware. Like I said, for the stuff that I want to do, from what I was seeing, there were some image or some issues with some of the original firmware and motor drivers, that it was a little more jumpy, that was improved with some of the upgrades. But if I'm going to spend that kind of money, $1,000 for the 8 GPS, I'd rather just spend $13 for the new 8 SE. Or am I missing something?
That it, Diane?
What's that?
Take a look at this stuff.
Oh,
Yes.
Ken. Yes. Ken is holding up a copy of The Source of All Knowledge. Indispensable.
Okay, so do you see it's correct? Is it good? It works?
Yes. 3 more minutes, Dr. Sterligov.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, this looks like a lot better. So it looks like we're ready to see this. Question for you, Steve Stewart. Did you pay via PayPal, or did I take a check from you?
Nope,
from
that
the
was
post
PayPal.
office?
I can send you the transaction number or forward the email to you from the PayPal.
Go ahead and forward the email. I can look for it as well, but if you forward the email, that'll make it quicker.
You got it.
I gotta make sure you're in our records as paid up through December 31st, 2023.
Yeah, I know you were at some event that weekend. The email that you sent to me said you were out of town and you were
Oh,
gonna.
you know what? That might have been you might have been another that I processed while at Okitex. The image that I turned into black and white was the one of the images that I acquired while at Okitex.
Nice. All right, yeah, I'll send that.
Yeah, that explains some of the confusion. So if you go ahead and send that, and I've been working on that throughout the meeting, so not a problem.
All right, we'll send that in just a sec.
Now, Dr. Sterligov, we're not seeing it in play mode. We're seeing it the way that you would, with the frames going along the left side. Make sure, have you hit play on your PowerPoint yet?
Yes, of course. Right now, do we have the changing of the images?
We have all the other images queued up going along the left side of the screen that we're seeing.
So images are changed.
We
No,
see
the images.
Now I try to play the presentation.
Yeah, go ahead and hit play. We've got 1 minute to go.
Okay.
All right, 8:20, get back to your seats with your snacks and your drinks, and let's roll with our short presentation. Take it away.
Okay, so you see, you know, the goal of this work, it's the creation of kind of bright artificial star. So it should be has a bright light intensity, small size of light source, and spherical waveform without aberrations. So what is the main principle of this project? Is to creation of direction of the laser beam on some micro lens, and then put in the focal plane of this micro lens some diaphragm. How it works? Let's see radial distribution of the intensity in the plane of this hole. It is drawn here, and here it's the radius in micrometers, here it's the relative intensity. So
I think we're just seeing the front screen. Have you are you sharing those slides where you're describing?
It seems that yes, but okay, I will try to I have the window which propose stop sharing, so probably I share it, but you don't see the images, is it?
They are not advancing.
Yeah,
We
we're
still
just
see your
seeing
title page.
Yes.
So it is only one image, is it? Or you see the changing of the images?
We see
the slides.
We see it the view that you would see, with the main image on the right-hand side and all of the other images queued up on the left-hand side. We are not seeing it as though it were in play mode. And therefore it's not advancing. Okay, it just advanced. We're still seeing the other images, but it just advanced. If you could share the whole window, but it advanced. So we can see your screens advancing.
So will I continue, or we should adjust something?
You should share the whole window and not just the application, if possible.
Or make the application full screen. And that should solve
Or make the application full screen, correct. Or if you're
my
using
application now is full screen.
Okay.
Okay. If you've got multiple monitors, make sure that that's filling the monitor that you're.
No, it's only one.
Okay.
I
think
have
he needs
only one
presentation
monitor.
mode.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
All right.
Terry, well, let me go on mute here.
Okay, probably I start again. I press the button, but there are no reaction.
If you hit your F5 key, that should put it in presentation mode. You're running Windows? It looked like a Windows version.
Yes, it's Windows. Okay, F5, okay, I use. It propose reload site.
If you can get it running, let's just do what you were doing. It is almost 8:30, so if we can just get it to advance, that'd be great.
Do you hear me?
We do now. We can see that you're about to share content. This hopefully this one will go so we can see some of your fabulous work.
Yes, and if it's not sharing properly, you're going to have to click each slide to have it
Yes.
advance. That's the only way it'll work. So let's see what you've got.
Okay. Okay, right now I share, but I see only black screen.
We're seeing a gray box again.
I see nothing
We're
except
seeing
for
that same gray box.
images.
Like, are you sharing the screen that the presentation is on?
Yes,
Otherwise, you can
I
drag the
sh-
presentation
share.
screen.
And there is information. You're sharing Microsoft PowerPoint, but there is no image.
Because I see your mouse moving, so you can try dragging the presentation to the other screen.
Oh, I have only one screen, so it
Yeah.
is no such possibility.
Oh, that's weird.
There could be something blocking the presentation. Most of us use
No.
two screens. We're used to just dragging presentation, but if there's something blocking the screen, and I know it may not work as well at full screen, just having the one screen. So he could be just being blocked. And yeah, there you go.
Okay.
We see
Well,
it when you
we
take
saw
it
it for
off
a
of full
second.
screen.
Oh, we saw it for a second, yeah.
Yeah,
You see
take it off
something?
of full screen. I think that's part of the issue.
But I see nothing right now. Okay, do you see something? No?
Okay.
We see your screen with the artifacts. Let's just, okay, we see your PowerPoint. Okay, manually, you'll need to manually advance. That's the only way that
Yeah.
you're going to be able to do this.
Yeah, because we want.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
Take it from the top, and let's do it like this.
Yes.
Okay, so I will not repeat what I told previously about the properties of this artificial star. Oh la la. Okay. So idea is presented here. So I take the micro lens from the objective from the microscope, direct on it laser beam, and in focal plane of this lens I put the diaphragm. And idea of application is will be visible from the next light distribution in the plane of this diaphragm. So this we have on this X is the radius in micrometers, and here is the relative intensity. So there is each area which corresponds to light beam without aberration, but all aberration, dirty, some imperfections of the light of the microscope of the optics which precedent this part, it is placed here for the area which is with bigger radius. And if we put here some hole which shadow this area, which not stop this area, so we will keep a very good, very high quality optical beam. So for this, as you see, we should have the oh la la, it's not works. Okay, I will take you I did some presentation, but it not works like this. So to produce very small and circular shape hole, I using following method. I take the copper foil with thickness, in my case it was 18 micrometers, and then with sharp steel needle I make the dead hole, so it is not penetrating completely. Then I put here some drop of nitric acid, and this nitric acid etch this area and produce some very small hole. So this small hole, it is not working correctly because of the irregular shape. But I can produce a regular shape, circular regular shape in following way. I take the glass stick, and then with flame of torch, I stretch it. In first stretching gives thickness of the fiber in the order of 100 microns. Then second time continue this operation, so stretching. It is very simple to obtain the glass fiber with size here in the order of few microns. Then working under microscope, I direct this fiber, micrometer fiber, into this hole, irregular hole, and this circular shape of the fiber produce circular hole in my diaphragm. So in such way, you see microphotography of such a hole, which is has in this way something like 23 microns diameter. In principle, it's possible in such way to produce the hole even with a few micrometers diameter, but such size it is correct. Then to realize this project, we have to find the way how to adjust position of this hole precisely relatively the focal point of the laser beam. So precision must be in the order of micrometers, and it should be very strong, very good fixed without possibility for some parasitic movement, etc. To realize this construction, I apply so-called differential screw. It is, in this case, it is green one. So it has two threads. In this thread has pitch 0.5 millimeters. Inner thread has the pitch 0.7. And for one revolution of this screw, we have movement shift of our central part of this construction by 200 microns. So this precision is enough. The same construction used to move the our pinhole in Y direction. And because of this small thickness of the screw, we have possibility to bend it a little bit. And this bending, it's enough to obtain something like 2 by 2 millimeters movement of our pinhole. And to compensate the backlash, I applied here with conventional usual kind of nut force, which compensate possible backlash on all of these threads. So here you see the image of real construction which realized all of these ideas. So its movement along the x-axis, y-axis, and this backlash compensating screw. Also here you see some screw to fix movement in the direction normal to the screen which I show you. So for Z direction. Here you see the top view of this construction. So this is two screw for X and Y movement, and laser pointer, which I use like a laser source, and that focusing is realized by piston inside cylinder. Here it's a movement rather not very precise, because the usual focal distance of micro lens in order of several millimeters, so precision of the part of millimeter, it's more than enough for such movement. And I can fix that movement, that alignment by screw, which is part of which you see here. And what we have as a result of this construction? So you see space distribution of the light which pass through such filter, such artificial star. So to give you idea of the sizes, this is a 3 degree of central minimum of this screen. And this structure, this light, it is result of the diffraction of the main beam by this pinhole diaphragm. And here on this screen you see the photo of the image which I did in some Mclaughlin telescope, small Mclaughlin telescope with 3 inches aperture size. And this artificial star was placed in the distance 70 meters, and this photo was done in sunny day. So you see it's enough intensity and clearly seen the state of disalignment of my telescope, so it can be used for convenient alignment of any kind of the telescope of I think. Okay, and thank you for your attention. If you have the question, I try to answer.
Yes, Dr. Sterligov, could you name a notable application of this particular technology?
In some
Famous
way,
use of it?
sorry?
A famous use of it.
I can tell you that this construction, pinhole in the focal place of micro objective, it's the typical called in optics filter of special frequencies. So why it is filter of special frequencies? By very simple reason. I try to show you or here. So this is can be measured in the micrometers, but feature is that this is corresponds to exactly to different special frequencies of the beam, which is or any kind of the beam which passes through this micro objective. And usually this construction, this structure of the lens with pinhole in its focal plane is a part of the so-called telescopes, but not astronomical telescopes, but optical telescopes. Then opticians usually put here a lens with another focal distance, and we have the possibility to change the output size of the laser beam. It remain parallel one like incident beam, but it is clean from the dirties, from the diffraction by different kind of imperfection on the optical surfaces for aberration of this lens and precedent lens. So it is very useful and very convenient construction, which is rather widely used in optics. I don't know, do I answer your question?
Yes, yes, thank you. Any additional questions for Dr. Sterligov? All right, well, thank you very much. Sorry about the technical issues. And
yes, I'm sorry as well. It's very inconvenient. Presentation was more nice that I showed you because I lost all of construction and detailed situation stages of the production which I prepared, but it not works. Sorry.
That's okay, Dr. Sterligov. We did the best with what we could do, and we just appreciate you coming to share your work with us. We appreciate you stepping up and enduring the struggle.
In principle, I can tell that I can share this construction with member of society who need some alignment, some check of alignment, so it can work.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Very interesting.
Yes, thank you. And if we can switch gears, I will hand things back over to First Vice President Bob Tremblay for the transition to our feature presentation of the night.
Okay, so we're going to need to stop sharing this presentation to begin with. Can we give presenter to Ken? All right, our next presenter is Ken Burton. He's a fairly well-known member of the Warren Astronomical Society. He's been a hobbyist astronomer for over 65 years. He's been a past president for 2 terms and VP of the WASP for 2 terms. He's traveled the world observing eclipses, both total and annular, and transits of Mercury and transits of Venus, and lunar eclipses. So yeah, he's Mr. Eclipse for the club. He does a lot of presentations about historical figures in astronomy, and I'm going to let Ken Burton take it away. Ken, you there?
Let's unmute me for first, huh? How do you like that? Okay. That'll work.
That would be useful, thank you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, that's what I kind of
All
figured.
good.
Let's do this. Let me get the share here. Okay. Here we go. Let's see what you have there. Okay. Let me see if I can start this here. And what do all of you see?
Your
We
presenter
see your
view.
control panel
Yeah,
where
we
it
see
says
the
current
slide
slide and
next
next slide. Yep. We're
You're
not seeing
seeing the
the
two,
actual
right?
slides.
Yeah,
Well,
we
hold
see
on a
what you
second.
see, including the notes.
Yep.
I don't want you to see that.
No, you don't.
Okay. I'm gonna
But we're looking at it and it's
stop
going through.
sharing.
we need to
There
see
we
it
go.
on
Let's
play.
do it again. Let's do this again. Now we'll do it. How about now?
Okay, that's your other screen.
I'm getting there.
Go ahead and launch.
Okay.
I'll bet you we see your.
Hold on a second. We're there. Okay. What are you seeing now?
The periodic table of the elements.
Okay, we're good.
That's what I wanted.
I don't
Okay.
think that's your main screen, but we only see one
That's
thing.
all
We
right.
don't
That's
see the
okay.
notes.
We're okay. I want to go back.
Thank you.
That's what I want. You got nothing, right?
Correct.
You see nothing but a black screen, right?
Void.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
That's the plan. Okay, here we go. You got it? Birth and life and death of a star. That's what you
Woo-hoo.
see, right, everybody?
Perfect.
Off to the races,
Oh,
Ken.
I love it. All right, here we go. Okay. We're moving. All right. Well, we've learned about what happened for the first billion years or so in the history of the universe, which leaves us with lots of stars and galaxies. And we are now equipped with the terminology needed to describe and categorize these stars. As you can see, there's your Big Bang and the Big Bang expansion, starting with the inflation, afterglow pattern about 375,000 years. Then the stars started coming into about 400 million years after the Big Bang. The Big Bang expansion, 13.77 billion years. This is up for debate now, pretty much because of the fact that it's accelerating, and there's some thoughts as to if it's been accelerating long enough, is it actually a little bit newer than we thought? Moving on, let us take a look at the elements on the periodic table. Hydrogen and helium were here near the beginning of the universe. So from where did the rest of the elements come? By the way, it's interesting that after the Big Bang occurred, that nothing in the universe had less than 24% helium, which is an interesting factor, meaning that as the stars were developed, hydrogen and helium were there, so that the stars were mostly made of hydrogen, but they also had a significant amount of helium early on. What about all the planets, the moons? How do they get here? The answer to all of these questions makes sense once we learn more about what goes on inside a star from the moment they are born and to the time of their death. This story varies widely based on the makeup of the stars. And of course, we have that famous Hertzsprung-Russell diagram where we can locate all the stars. You'll notice that our sun is about 6,000 degrees Celsius, sitting in the yellow group. It is a star that is of relative small size, but the majority of the stars in the universe are in fact red dwarfs. And that if you were to take each of those different groups, the red dwarfs, this is "Oh, be a fine girl, kiss me" type thing, right? The M stars outnumber the next stars by about 14 times, and moving along, it goes 14 times, 14 times, 14 times, all the way up to the blue-white stars, and those are the least present. I show this next slide just to give you an idea of the result of those stars that are very massive and those stars that aren't quite as massive. The final result of a very massive star, obviously, is a supernova, and the result of a star such as ours that doesn't have the enough mass to explode will become like a ring nebula, and we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. We all know that stars die, and the type of death, along with what's left over. This is all entirely dependent on the mass of the star. These pics indicate the basic results due to the mass of the star. And again, like I said, on the left is a supermassive star's end in supernova, such as the Crab Nebula. On the left is the star not massive enough to explode, and there's the Ring Nebula is another example of that. So where are we going? Look on the right side of the screen. Now let's go through the lifetime of a few different kinds of stars so that we can understand the 13 billion years of development in the universe. Obviously, the life cycle of any star from birth to death and all the stages in between spans millions or billions of years, depending on the star's mass. Stars don't seem to change at all because a human lifetime is a snippet of a fraction of a blink of an eye, regardless of the mass of the star. So we don't get to see that. Now, we might have an opportunity to see, we have seen some exploding stars, but we have seen them, obviously, at the end of their lives. Now let's go through the lifetime of a few different types of stars so that we can understand the 13 billion years of development in the universe. Obviously, the life cycle of a star from birth to death and all the stages in between spans millions to billions of years, depending on the star's mass. Stars don't seem to change at all, again, as we said, because of the short time of the life of us. Again, the path that will be followed by a particular star depends mainly, again, on its mass, or how much gas was collected and collapsed to form the star. This is because that amount of material will serve as the star's fuel. As we may remember from physics and chemistry, when nuclei collide with enough energy so as to become the electromagnetic repulsion between them to overcome it, the strong nuclear force takes over, and they fuse, with a small fraction of their mass converting into huge amounts of pure energy. Therefore, only by colliding nuclei together and fusing them in its ultra-hot core can a star release enough outward energy to counter the effects of gravity relentlessly crushing inward. This means that the amount of matter that forms the star determines the amount of fuel, and through a variety of other factors, the lifetime and eventual fate of the star. What keeps a star together is gravity. What keeps a star from collapsing is the thermonuclear reaction, which is hydrogen fusing into helium. Once that action has run its course, gravity takes over and the star starts to collapse. The result is the pressure begins to increase and the helium starts to fuse. And the word burn works here, by the way. And the star again expands into a red giant or red supergiant. As the helium fuses, the star collapses again, producing still heavier elements. The less massive stars eventually dissipate, producing a planetary nebula with a white dwarf at its center, which cools and dies. The high massive stars continue to collapse, and upon reaching critical mass, mostly iron, by the way, they explode. And the explosion produces many other heavy elements. And the final result is either a neutron star, or in the case of very high mass stars, a black hole. As said, the earliest era of star formation, this material was almost exclusively hydrogen and helium, as this was what remained after the brief 17 minutes of nucleosynthesis soon after the Big Bang. This matter collects due to gravity, pushing increasingly inward as it contracts again, until things get so hot over a few million years that nuclear fusion eventually begins, establishing an equilibrium and generating a yellow or red main sequence star that glows with all energy released from the collisions happening inside. Given that mass is the key factor, let's start with the low mass stars. This would range from the smallest that stars can be, meaning the smallest amount of material that can sufficiently trigger nuclear fusion so as to qualify as a star, which is about 13 Jupiter masses, to a star somewhere in the ballpark of our sun's mass. As we already know, any star will begin as a cloud of gas and dust, at least a few light years across. These fusion reactions begin with two protons fusing, followed by subsequent beta decay to get a proton and a neutron, and we call this a deuterium, which is the nucleus of heavy hydrogen. Then deuterons are involved in reactions that make helium, which has two protons and two neutrons. Such a star will continue in this manner for billions of years, slowly fusing all the hydrogen in its core into helium and maintaining a relatively steady state and temperature and luminosity as it does so, until almost all the hydrogen is gone, and here things really begin to change. The core of the star will shrink and get hotter, which makes the remaining hydrogen burn even faster. And all of that extra energy being generated will radiate outwards and push the outer layers away from the core. As the outer layers expand, they cool and thus become more and more red, and the star climbs up the red giant branch until we have a red giant star. The star can maintain this new status, for a little while longer, around 1 billion years, but after almost all the hydrogen is gone, the core gets even smaller and even hotter. At this phase called Helium Flash, things are so hot that the star is able to fuse these heavier helium nuclei into larger nuclei like carbon and then oxygen through something called the triplet alpha process. And this means that the star has a whole new source of fuel in all the helium it has been making for billions of years. The star begins pulsating as it runs through the final energy reserve, entering what's called the horizontal branch. And in this time, it becomes smaller, hotter, and bluer until much of the helium has been fused into larger nuclei. Once the core is predominantly carbon and oxygen, with just a shell of helium around it and a shell of hydrogen around that, the star has very little material left to burn. So the core will collapse and the star enters the asymptotic giant branch. This means it will glow rapidly and become a giant star again until the last bursts of energy eject the outer layer, pushing it away from the core and back into the interstellar medium, leaving only a tiny, very hot, bare core behind around the size of the Earth. This will gradually cool as it has no more fuel to burn, not being hot enough to fuse carbon or oxygen nuclei, and it will contract further until we are left with a white dwarf star. The ejected shell is called a planetary nebula, which is misleading, which it is really not a planet and did not come from a planet, but the name originated from confusion upon its discovery, and it stuck. The material in a planetary nebula will then become available to join more gas particles to form yet another star. For a high mass star, one's much more massive than our sun, things are quite different. Their demise is not so quiet. Big stars go out with a bang. Things start out normally with a gas cloud, collecting under the influence of gravity. It is simply that this cloud will be much larger than those that form low mass stars, so it will contain much more mass. More mass means more gravity, which means the force pushing inward is much stronger and the star gets hotter. And the hotter temperature means faster fusion, which generates greater outward pressure to counteract the greater inward pull of gravity. This produces a main sequence star that is hot, big, bright, and blue. This is where things start to go differently from low mass stars. Whereas low mass stars take billions of years to use up all their fuel, high mass stars are much hotter and burn their fuel much faster. This means they use up all the hydrogen that become in their cores in around just a fleeting 100 million years, or even 10 million if the star is big enough. As the fuel starts running out, the core contracts and heats, producing more energy, so the star will swell up into a giant star, just like we saw for low mass stars. However, while the core and high mass stars continue to compress, it gets much hotter than the core of a low mass star, and it becomes able to fuse helium nuclei to form carbon, and then oxygen, and then neon, and then silicon, each heavier nucleus being regulated to a smaller and smaller region of the core that is hot enough to fuse it. All the way at the center sits the heaviest element that can be fused within a star, iron. As this occurs in these different layers, each performing particular type of fusion until no fuel remains, the star is left with a core of iron nuclei that are so stable that further fusion can release no more energy. Here is when gravity wins the fight, and the star collapses within a single second. The outer layer is bouncing off the core and triggering an explosion, thus ejecting all of the heavy nuclei the star has created out into space. This awesome event, one of the most violent and energetic phenomena in the universe, is called a supernova. A supernova generates such an unbelievable burst of energy that in a brief moment, dozens of elements heavier than iron can also be synthesized. That means nickel, copper, zinc, silver, gold, any element with an atomic number greater than 26 is made either in a supernova or a rare event like a collision of two neutron stars or a neutron star and a black hole, which are objects we will discuss in a moment. That's why these heavy elements are so rare compared to the elements of carbon and oxygen, because stars can't synthesize them the way they can synthesize all the elements up to iron throughout their long lives. Nature only makes these rare elements during the death of a high mass star or in certain exotic collision events. Supernovae are also so bright that they are brighter than an entire galaxy in which they live. When viewed through telescopes, and if in our own galaxy, they can even be visible to the naked eye, like the one that generated the famous Crab Nebula, which was recorded by a variety of civilizations in 1054. Supernova does not leave behind a white dwarf. And there you have your beautiful Crab Nebula. Now, lower mass stars that begin with less than about 8 solar masses leave behind white dwarfs because once reduced to its lighter Earth-sized core, there is not enough gravity to overcome the electron degeneracy pressure. In other words, a white dwarf will become kind of like a gigantic metallic solid with the electron clouds around the nuclei pushing against each other and preventing additional collapse. This object is very dense, with a teaspoon weighing as much as 15 tons, and some of them even as much as a battleship. So below about 1.4 solar masses, the maximum mass of a white dwarf star, which is known as the Chandrasekhar limit. I could never been able to pronounce that guy's name my whole life. This is the fate of the core of the star. But for high mass stars, whereupon but for high mass stars, whereupon its death, the core of the star is above the Chandrasekhar limit, which means it is massive enough for a supernova to occur. One of two things will be left behind. If the core is around 1.4 to 3 solar masses, having been generated by a star which was originally somewhere in the ballpark of 10 to 40 solar masses, the core will not be able to support itself against gravity, and it will collapse with such tremendous force that all the electrons could get squeezed into protons, that they combine to form neutrons, and the shock wave from this event is what triggers the supernova. The object that remains is a ball of neutrons bunched together like one huge atomic nucleus the size of New York City, containing all the mass originally within the core of the star. A teaspoon of a neutron star would be a whopping 10 million tons. But even more miraculously, if the core of the star is above 3 solar masses, even the outward pressure of neutrons pressing up against each other, or neutron degeneracy pressure, is not enough to stop the immense gravity, and the neutrons will be crushed together as the remaining mass collapses into a single point of infinite density. The entire mass of the star's core contained within 0 volume. This object is called a black hole. Outer layers of the star that have been ejected, full of heavy nuclei fused during the lifetime of the star, and the additional, even heavier ones formed during the supernova, will leave behind a colorful nebula. The singularity that is left is anything but colorful. The black hole, given its infinite density, warps space-time so much that not even light can escape. Whatever a black hole might look like, if that even can even mean anything, we will probably never find out, because it is impossible for photons to leave it and reach our eyes, which is how we see things. As incredible as this sounds, this is how nature works. The black hole do indeed exist all over the universe as the remnants of huge dead stars. Black holes are so fascinating that they require a whole chapter unto themselves. Let us review what we just learned about the lifetime of a star. When a star forms from a gas cloud of some mass, which is almost always between 1/10 of a solar mass and around 30 solar masses, a star produces somewhere along the main sequence. As the fuel in the core begins to run out, it contracts, which raises the pressure around the core and pushes the outer layers outward, where they will then cool, producing a red giant. All the stars have a red giant phase when their fuel is almost gone, regardless of their mass. Finally, when the star can no longer perform sufficient nuclear fusion, which counters the effects of gravity, the star will collapse, leaving a white dwarf if it is low mass, and a neutron star if it is intermediate mass, and a black hole if it is especially high mass. Telescopes in space for even sharper images of black holes. This is the date of May 6, 2019. This is the Radboud University Nijmegen. I don't know what that is. Nijmegen, I guess that's what it's called. Astronomers have just managed to take the first image of a black hole, and now the next challenge facing them is how to take even sharper images so the Einstein theory of general relativity can be tested. Radboud University astronomers, along with the European Space Agency and others, are putting forward a concept for achieving this by launching radio telescope into space. They published their plans in the scientific journal Astronomy and Astrophysics. The idea is to place 2 or 3 satellites in circular orbit around the Earth to observe black holes. The concept goes by the name of Event Horizon Imager, EHI. In their new study, the scientists present simulations of what images of the black hole Sagittarius A would look if they were taken by satellite like these, more than 6 times as sharp. These are lots of advantages to using satellites instead of permanent radio telescopes on Earth, as the Event Horizon telescope says. His name is Frika Rilofs, a PhD candidate at Radboud University, and the lead authors of the article. In space, you can make observations at higher radio frequencies because the frequencies from Earth are filtered out by the atmosphere. The distance between the telescopes in space are also larger. This allows us to take the big first step forward. We should be able to take images with resolution of more than 5 times what is possible with the EMT. Sharper images of a black hole will lead to better information that could be used to test Einstein's theory of general relativity in greater detail. The fact that the satellites are moving around the Earth makes it for considerable advantages. Radio astronomer Professor Hino Flaky says, with them, you can take near perfect images to see the real details of black holes. If small deviations from Einstein's theory occur, we would be able to see them. EHI will also be able to image about 5 additional black holes that are smaller than the black holes that the EHI is currently focusing on. The later are Sagittarius A at the center of our Milky Way and M87 at the center of Messier 87, a massive galaxy in the Virgo cluster. There are technological challenges. The researchers have simulated that they would be able to see the different versions of the technology under different circumstances. For this, they may use models of plasma behavior around the black hole and the resulting radiation. The simulations look promising from a scientific aspect, but there are difficulties to overcome at the technical level. The astronomers collaborated with scientists of the European Space Agency to investigate the technical feasibility of the project. The concept demands that you must be able to ascertain the position and the speed of satellites very accurately, but we really believe that the project is feasible. Consideration also being given to how satellite exchange data. Hard drives with data are transported to the necessary center by airplane. That, of course, is not possible in space. In this concept, the satellites will exchange data via a laser link, with the data being partially processed on board before being sent back to Earth for future analysis. There are already laser links in space. Hybrid system, this idea is that the satellites will initially function independently with of the EHT telescopes. The consideration is also be given to a hybrid system with the orbiting telescopes combined with the ones on Earth. Using a hybrid like this could provide the possibility of creating moving images of a black hole, and you might be able to observe even more and also weaker sources. This research, according to Falke, is part of the Black Hole CAM project, which is ERC Synergy grant awarded in 2013 to a team of European astrophysics to image, measure, and understand black holes. Black Hole CAM is an active partner of the Event Horizon Telescope collaboration. And that is the story of the birth and life and the death of a star. Are there any questions?
I've got one question. I've got one question. Got a question.
Go ahead. Laura, we see you. We hear you.
We're listening. Go ahead.
You know, we don't have like a high mass superstar, but we have a black hole at the center of our galaxy.
Right.
Oh. We're not a high mass star.
Well, let me give you another thing on that, Laura, that you should know about it. First of all, black holes are produced by very large stars, but the universe has been around a long time. And one of the big things about black holes is they have, as we know, tremendous gravity. And we have, in the last couple of years, been able to see a couple of black holes merging. You probably have heard of that, of course, with LIGO and such. But you have to understand that the black holes in the center of galaxies are probably a huge number of combinations of lots and lots of them. Because remember, we talked about the lifetime of a supermassive star. Not very long. It could be 1 million years, as a matter of fact, more likely 10, but 1 million years. Whereas our sun, for example, has a life expectancy of 10 billion years, and red dwarfs can live 200 billion years based on how long it takes them to go. But the collision of these big stars, again, in the early going, produced this. Now, again, the universe is very, very big. I mean, even our galaxy is 100 billion light years across. It's just incredibly massive. This generation of stars, you know, they say, well, what are the chances of a couple of stars colliding? Well, what is the chance of a truck that is in Detroit colliding with a truck that is in San Diego? That's why you're talking about the stars are so far apart that the chances of them running into each other is really kind of limited. Doesn't happen very often because they are very, very far apart. Even though they're in groupings, they're still very, very, very apart. If you take a look at a globular cluster, those stars are probably fractions of light years away from each other, but a light year is very big. So you have to understand that stars, although they do become black holes, you're also talking about the current time of how many stars are capable of becoming a black hole. It's infinitesimal compared to the number of stars that are in the universe. Infinitesimal. So it happens because lots of things happen, but it isn't very common. Any other question? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just looked up on Google how many stars in the Milky Way collide, and I couldn't find it. The only thing it's talking about is the collision of Andromeda and the Milky Way, which there's going to be hardly any stars colliding.
Yeah, we have a very old galaxy, by the way. That's also true. But again, if you start getting exploding stars and things like that, you're going to produce a lot of matter. The matter is out there, and you may have a revolution. I don't know exactly. Anyone else? Did I cover it okay for you? Yes, go ahead.
I was surprised by the picture of the Big Bang. Looks like a funnel.
Right.
Where I thought of it as being inside a globe, but why is it a foghorn like that?
Well, that's just a demonstration of the time factor. That's a use of the time. It doesn't really spread out like that particularly. It actually spreads out in all directions is what it does. So
okay.
yeah.
All
but
right.
again, they want to be able to put it into an area where you can get an idea of how the time frame is and how it develops. Yes, John.
I understand how the supermassive star runs out of fuel, so it collapses because it's got gravity pulling in, but nothing pushing out, no more energy to push out. But why does it bounce back out into this explosion? Why not just collapse and stay collapsed?
Ah, very good question. I'm glad you asked that question because I actually have the answer. All right. When you have a star that goes down when it's collapsing, all right, take your hands and do this. What happens? What happens to your hands? They get warm, don't they? What you're
guess
having
so,
is
yeah.
those elements that are there are rubbing together, is what they're doing. And when they're rubbing together, the heat is being generated. And when the heat is being generated, the expansion goes again. Literally, that's what's going on.
Great, thank you.
Pretty simple, but
You're
that's how it
saying
works.
everything starts fusing.
Yes, that's what it is. When they start fusing, when the helium starts to fuse, again, there's a great outward pressure at that point in time, and that's why the thing spreads out like that. So you have a pulsating thing, no matter if you have a big star or a small star, you're still going to get that situation where it's going to go in and it's going to expand out. Let's take an example. Let's talk about Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse or whatever the hell you want to call it. In Betelgeuse's case, Betelgeuse was a very large white star at one time, and now it is in its red giant stage. The sun is not going to get anywhere near as big as Betelgeuse at some point in time. But Betelgeuse is so massive and had such a massive star to begin with that when it starts to collapse, which it will, you're going to have, and a collapse is not going to stop. That's a very important point. It's not going to stop because there's nothing burning anymore, and it's going to collapse down to a point, to a very core, and it's just going to go boom like that. That's what happens. Next.
I wanted to mention something, Ken. You're talking about the lives and time frames and stuff. Something that Dave Bailey mentioned years ago at a presentation when he's talking about these giant stars that that live for very short amount of times and just blow up. If you're sitting outside of our galaxy and you're able to watch it rotating, you would be seeing sparkles of supernovas all over the place from
Exactly.
these short-lived stars, and that's just an amazing image.
And, oh, by the way, I misspoke on something. I want to go back to that real quickly because I caught myself afterward, and I wanted to just mention a star like the sun. When we talk about a white dwarf that's resultant from that, it wouldn't be the weight of a battleship. That's incorrect. In fact, what would be about 14.4 times the mass of the sun. So that's a teaspoon would be 1.4. I remember the exact number, the weight of it, tons, 1.4 tons. That's correct, by the way. I made a mistake because the white dwarfs that are produced by the superstars, those will be much heavier, obviously, in black holes and the like. Anyone else? I thank you very much for listening. I think you have a little bit of feel now about this. Many of you knew that a long time ago, but just the same, remember that one of the key things, there are 14 times as many M stars as there are, 14 times as many M stars as there are K, which has 14 times as many stars as the F star, has 14 times as many as so you can see how that goes. As you go up the line, the number of stars is, when you talk about it, the number of stars that you talk about, blue, whites, very small number. Thank
One
you.
of the science fiction stories I've read, the guy mentions that the sun is bigger than 80% of stars, and the sun's a dwarf.
There you go.
Yes, the sun is a dwarf.
The sun is a yellow dwarf.
Well, thank you, Ken. That is one of my favorite topics, so I never get tired of hearing about how stars die. Well, we learn more. We know a lot more now. We know a lot more weird things now than we did when I joined the club 14 years ago. So,
Go.
thank you, Ken. Any
Thank
additional
you.
questions or comments? I see a thumbs up from Laura. Dale,
ahead, Laura.
anything to relay from the YouTube crowd?
Oh, no questions there.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us on this chilly Monday night. Stay warm. Remember that our next meeting is going to be Thursday, the third Thursday of the month. And renew your dues because we all expired on Saturday. Unless you were an early bird who got the... I see Bob Tremblay celebrating over there because he already sent in PayPal. So renew the dues.
Yep.
PayPal is your friend. And we'll see y'all on the third Thursday. Thanks again, everybody.
Stars
Happy
are
New Year,
dying and
everybody.
we're expiring. This is not a pleasant ending.
Oh, I'll use a different word. Dues refresh.
Happy New Year, everybody.
There you go.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
And check out the quadranted shower.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's only 42 of them, by the way, a year. Did you know that?
Meteor
Did you know
showers?
there's 42 New Year showers?
Yeah, and most of
42
them are
of them?
terrible.
Most of them are 2 or 3 a night.
Yeah,
Some of
most of them are not worth going outside for.
Well, thanks for living. Take care.
Thanks,
Good
Ken.
job,
Great
Dan.
talk.
We'll see you later.
Thank you.